So, fellow Ambazonians, hello everyone. Welcome to Amba History. This is another episode of our newly created program on SCP, your favorite TV. This is our TV. It is said, Amba History, we history. We history. So, many of us know little about our story because we never had the chance to learn about it or by someone who knew about it. Why? Because the colonial master back home, who we all know, La Republic, had made sure that our parents, our elder brothers, our elder sisters were always busy trying to survive. Understand? On a daily or maybe on an hourly basis, so that they never could find that peace of mind to sit down and educate their children. But as we all know, they say 99 days for a thief, and just as one liberation day for Amba, and that day has come. Now, Amba children like myself, my colleague, today we are back with our brother, comrade PK from Zurich, our colleagues who were to come from the States. Barrister Babga is today not available, but we had another colleague who was to come up, but he's in traffic. You know, this is a very interesting thing about us Amalanders. We live everywhere on planet Earth, and we are participating actively in our daily lives and communities. So it is not easy for those of us who are in Europe to come up with a timetable that fits Ambaland, but also fits the other parts of the world. But we will do what we can do. If there are our colleagues or our colleague Rambert happens to make it, before the program is through, he will join us. If not, there will still be another episode of Amba history. Now, where did we stop? Pascal, can you remember where we stopped last week? I know I am at my age. You can see the gray hair. I have sort of beginning dementia. So, you're the young guy, you can tell us where we actually stopped last week.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Ngasa. Thank you very much again. Once more, we are back here with the SCBC History Series. It's unfortunate that Comrade Lambert is not yet online, but we hope that in due process he's going to join us. For those who actually followed us last week, we stopped exactly at, let's say, 1922 in the timeline. That was exactly when the Mandate Commission of the League of Nations transferred administration to Southern Cameroon to the British, and French Cameroon to the French. To the French. So this Southern Cameroon was actually administered in Nigeria, and it was an integral part of the East Nigeria House. And we have to actually be very careful right here, because these people who constituted the folks from the Southern Cameroon started feeling marginalization from the onset when they were actually packed with the Nigerians. So it actually prompted the famous Dr. Endeli to create what is known as the Cameroon Welfare Union.
I have the impression that we're still being have hitches there with our technical connections and so on. But I can see myself. Maybe it's a mirror, but Pascal, I can see you on the side. I've just informed the technical department. They're taking care of that. They're taking care of that. I think you can go on, because people can hear you. I assume I could hear you.
Okay. This Cameroon Welfare Union was actually a body which was created by Endeli and a few Southern Cameroonians that people should know today: Chief Manga Williams, Kale, and Foncha himself. And they were actually there to try to fight back because of basic marginalization that they started having, and that was in 1939 that it was created. So we are now in 1939, just exactly when the First World War started. You see, all this why we have had the CDC. I have to talk about the CDC right here before we come back to it again, because the CDC was actually already existing in the Southern Cameroons. And the CDC actually is very important because it was like a basin that collected just everybody from everywhere who was looking for employment. So a lot of people left the hinterlands and came over to the Southwest province, I mean the present Southwest region, which hosted the CDC. So all that pressure from the CDC actually contributed to some basic initial consciousness of the people of this region. So the Cameroon Welfare Union actually now in 1940 was now upgraded to Cameroon Youth League. There's one difference also. The Cameroon Welfare Union included everybody. It was very inclusive. Meanwhile, the Cameroon Youth League actually had some segregation because it actually had more people who had actually been schooled. So there was some little kind of friction in the sense that the Cameroon Welfare Union had everybody who actually was concerned, and meanwhile the Cameroon Youth League concentrated more on the educated class at that time, which was not, there were not too many. And this was existential because they actually demanded for a separate regional status in this house in Enugu, Nigeria, because they wanted to be able to run their own affairs or to have seats that they could actually debate on their own issues which are happening in their own region. That was in 1940s. So it started right there. And you can go now, for example, to 1946. You see, I don't want to give much details because the details confuse the people. You see, the German plantation CDC was made by the Germans, and it has been confiscated after the First World War. war since the Germans were defeated. So it was actually the main employer in the whole of the former Cameroon territory. And it happened that it was situated in British Southern Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to understand now that this creation of the Endeli of the Cameroon Youth League also spurred the people who had left French Cameroon to also try to make a union. And this union was created by a famous guy called Dibonge, who was actually the leader of the Douala people who found themselves around the Victoria area. So he went on to create what they call the French Cameroon Welfare Union, because he had actually learned that if the English Cameroonians had created that group, he has to create something also, which initially belonged to people from the Douala area, but then it ultimately included all the other French Cameroonians who were living in this area. And their main purpose was to actually initiate the reunification of the two Cameroons. That's a very important point in our history. That was 1948. And they had headquarters in Victoria because they were there also like immigrants. They felt like immigrants. So what they were anticipating was to be able to reunify Cameroon, because they didn't want to feel like immigrants in a fact that they belonged together for the war. So it's very important that we know or understand where the reunification came from. The reunification pressure came from the French Cameroonians who were living in the English zone, in the British Southern Cameroon. So they actually realized that if they had to be going home and coming back, there were all these laissez-passer issue, which they wanted actually to overcome. So the first thing they had to do was to create a consciousness group, which actually target this hindrance. That's why it came out with the French Cameroon Welfare Union.
This is interesting. This is very, very interesting. Yeah, carry on, please. We're listening. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So it's a information for me. So if I can understand you, you mean that it was the Cameroonians of the Douala origin, from Douala origin, who were working on the other side of the Mongo in the plantations, who had to identify themselves whenever they were going back, they were living in southern Cameroons.
Yeah, the point is they actually felt like foreigners in the part that they had claimed to be part of their territory before the war, before the mandate, the League of Nations mandate actually was given to the French and to the English independently, because now it made them to be foreigners in the country or in a part of the land that they are understood to be their own. So their interest was actually to create this consciousness. And it was first meant only for the Douala people, but they realized that they needed the other French Cameroonians from the Bamileke enclaves from far out Yaoundé to be able to have a momentum that could actually have a much bigger voice.
So you are
Dibonge and actually championed this group, the Welfare Union, which actually became the Cameroon Youth League. And Dibonge actually, when Dibonge came now with the with his own French Cameroon Welfare Union, with time it actually started outweighing what Endele was doing, because Endele didn't really have any interest in reunification, but Dibonge had that interest. So a lot of other people, for example, who now wanted to share British Southern Cameroon, who came from the French part of Cameroon, they now started swelling the ranks of the Bonges Association. So with time, the Bonges Association became more powerful than what Endele had created.
Okay.
This is where we have a big problem in Cameroon, because somebody like Foncha was actually a school teacher in Babenda. And Foncha was like the representative of Dr. Endele when Dr. Endele had upgraded his union into a kind of political party, the Cameroon National Federation. So F.R.A actually was the representative when Endeli made the tours, went to Mampe, went to everywhere, and went to Bamenda. F.R.A was the guy who actually was his representative. And then we have to understand something, that F.R.A in the future, F.R.A will create KNDP. And KNDP also had actually the intentions of reunification. So standing in line with Dibonge.
Okay.
The guy from Douala. So now, and they actually realized that if F.R.A is in line with Dibonge, him and Endeli is going to be out of the equation very soon.
Yes.
So strategically, Endeli now joined Dibonge, who had actually created a political party, and now they together created what they call the Cameroon National Congress, which was a KNC.
Okay.
I said there are too many of those names and abbreviations, which I don't want to go deep in them because it confuses the audience. So I'm just giving kind of a summary of the intrigues that these guys are playing within themselves.
So now, for a little bit of orientation, what time period are you talking about?
This is 1949.
1949. That's 1949. If I may borrow from the history of the Republic, the UPC of Mumie or whatever, how do you call it, UPC guys again?
Ruben Umyobe.
Umyobe, exactly. Umyobe, who were in Douala. Yeah. It was not also the same in the same period.
The thing is, we have to be very careful now. Let me tell you something which is not written clearly in the books. People make timelines and make milestones, but they forget certain things. The UPC actually was created in the French Cameroon, and because of their nationalistic tendencies, they were actually banned. So they crossed over to Kumba to have their headquarters there. And the UPC is actually the party that financed KNDP because they had the same interest.
Yes.
The UPC actually was now living in British Southern Cameroons, and they realized that their interest would be to actually finance a party which anticipates reunification. Yes, because they had no legitimacy to do that in British Southern Cameroon because they were actually a fugitive group.
Okay.
So Endeli now realized that actually, if the UPC is supporting KNDP very soon, KNDP is going to be much bigger than him. And don't forget, F.R.A used to be like the errand boy of Endeli. They were actually. So what happened now was, they say the French now triggered the British to be able to influence certain decisions. And this decision was taken by Endeli. It's Endeli who actually banned the UPC in British Cameroons.
So I'm just looking at the comments that are on Facebook because we would have loved to have callings here live, but it's technically not possible. These people are having difficulties to connect online. So I hope that because we'll be able to equip well and have such possibilities available. But I was just trying to look at the Facebook site to see if there is a question that we need to answer. Questions that complain and call and insult people, please share. Kizito, please. When you want to formulate your questions, we are not insulting anybody here. We are just trying to give information. If it doesn't fit you, tell us. You can write it out and then it will also be discussed. I will read it out. But when you're written now, I will not read it because it is anybody can read for himself, but that's not in line with what we're doing here. We're trying to educate. Okay, good evening to others. Well, let's continue. Well, so there's where Barrister. Barrister is in America. He's not available today for Amba history. He's in America. Who's that? Abongwa Israel. Okay, Barrister will surely read it out in the forms and he can give you an answer wherever he is. Let's come back to our history. So we are now at in the around late 40s.
Yes, 1949.
1949. So 1949 world history. What was happening in history? 1948 Israel was created. Israel, a country that went out and took its arms and defended the territory around Jerusalem and launched its country. Remember?
Yeah.
The United Nations did not allow Israel to become a country, but they used their force and the support of the America, whatever, to seize the land of the Palestinians and launch their own country.
Yeah, we have to be very careful. People like to call Israel. Israel is not really,
yes.
not really a good example of all the countries that have actually been created. We have to be very careful. Nevertheless, the creation of Israel was actually a plot which was manipulated. We don't remember from the Balfour Declaration. You see, the thing with Israel is Israel had lobbies. The state of Israel was actually initiated by Joseph Hetzel. He was a journalist in Austria, the guy who was the father of Zionism, who started Zionism. I want to understand that the state of Israel has nothing to do with the Jewish community, because that's a mistake that people make. You see, so
no,
it's not a good example.
Sorry, I just brought in Israel because of the timeline. I was saying that
Israel
what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
What was happening somewhere in the world?
Time, we have to understand, Dr. We have to understand that was 1959.
Yes.
The world was still recovering from the headaches and the problems of the outcome of the Second World War.
Second World War.
It was a big problem. Even France itself was bankrupted.
Yes.
France itself was a country which was still looking for its own stability. Don't forget that during the Hitler years, France had been divided into the Vichy France.
Yeah, Vichy.
Yes, the one that actually supported Exactly. So the thing is, we have to be very careful. You see, when we talk about our history, we actually forget that during these developmental years of our history, France and the whole of Europe were fighting a war, which actually made them so weak that at the end of the day, that's what actually gave for the independence. The independence we got was because they could not handle it anymore. They were very poor. America, through the Marshall Plan, was trying to rebuild Europe because it needed a partner to do business with. So it was its interest to rebuild Europe.
Yes.
So nevertheless, the pressures came from everywhere to liberate Africa politically, but not economically, which the imperialist never does. It gives you a political freedom, but it knows economical freedom is dependent on the political freedom. Or rather, political freedom is dependent on the economical freedom. So we had our independence that around shortly after those years, that you was in a bad shape.
Okay. Now we are now let for another enter the early 50s.
Okay.
The goal is becoming
1949, as you said, the early 50s. UPC, which actually was having its
let me get something.
UPC,
please.
Yeah, UPC made a congress in Kumba. I don't want to go too much into UPC, but it's very important that we know the role that UPC played, because UPC now actually had its congress in Kumba, which was facilitated by Dibonge, the guy from Douala who had actually anticipated reunification. So that's where Foncha, with his KNDP, started getting ground, which was actually negative to Endel's hopes, political hopes. So it happened that with time, Foncha Endel now made a coalition with Bonge to be able to actually get back the votes that it had lost to the KNDP. Now we're in British Southern Cameroon. Political parties have started shooting up. People are getting conscious. People are getting divided by their rulers according to certain things like tribalism, regionalism, and all those little things. So Foncha actually had an edge over Endele because he had the support of the UPC, which actually was not legitimate to do any elections in British South Cameroon. So that had pushed Endele now to join his nemesis, which was the Bonge. And now they became bigger again than Foncha. You see?
So it meant Foncha had to do a lot of brain work to convince Amba lenders what
we have to understand something.
the way he,
You see,
no,
yeah, we have to understand something. These things are not written in the books because our history, so-called history books, were all well crafted to actually construe our minds to certain manipulations.
yes,
Foncha had all the good intentions in the world for unification, also because of his own historical background, which was not bad. The reunification was not a bad process, but it was a difficult thing. It was a difficult thing, and that's where we find ourselves today because of these problems. Foncha did everything for reunification because Foncha himself originates from Chang. He doesn't come from Kwen, he comes from Chang. You see, so it stood to reason that he had to actually anticipate for the reunification, which was a good thing because the Cameroonians or the so-called Cameroonians had lived before together, and all these people actually shared the same culture. The people from Fontaine, from Chang, from Baminda, they actually traded before the white structures came. So we have to also be fair to what the politicians were doing. They were not actually going there because they were bad. They were trying to reunite their people in good faith. But politics actually is what destroys the good faith. It's not the intention. It's political power, the fight for power, that destroys the good intention that was initiated by the founding fathers.
meaning that now that is we are 50s, early 50s.
Yes.
And 3 years later, we will move it from Nigeria.
Yes.
So what was happening then before? Because if that was if Dile and Ndele were active on the plantations,
yeah.
they were so active. How come we had our parliament in Nigeria, our position there?
Well, it was a fight because they realized that they had no voice. So it was to their advantage to do everything to be able to have seats so that their voices could be heard. That's when Nnamdi Azikiwe was actually the one running the show in eastern Nigeria. But they realized that even when they had that seat, they were still very much dominated by the Nigerians, which were actually predominantly the Igbos. So they realized that nothing really went through. It doesn't matter how many seats they had there, their things didn't go through. So it happened that now Ndeli wanted actually led the Southern Cameroon community to the Lancaster, so-called Lancaster conference in London. I mean, they gave them the autonomous status there, but nevertheless, that's when he was elected the first the premier of Southern Cameroon. And then now he started campaigning again for Nigeria or reintegration or integration with Nigeria. People ask themselves why again? Because before he was kind of against it, although Kale was for it. And we don't forget that Kale was also Ndeli's cousin, come from the same family.
Okay.
Yes. Kale and Ndeli come from the same family stock. They split out somewhere in the line just because of a little bit of power moving as usual. Because they created also two different parties.
Okay, the one uncle was not happy with the
exactly.
The gift that come from London, so he wanted the uncle to receive less.
So the thing again, like I said, we can go to details as much as possible, but it's going to just mix up the story. We just want to use a little bit of milestones and timelines.
What I'm getting from this information is that there was already some sort of awareness of a belonging of Southern Cameroonians, because if there had been part of the parliament in Lagos, and later in the eastern region when the parliament was created, and they were still not, they didn't still feel at home. Then they must have had this particular feeling of belonging to a particular group.
It's true. There was a catalyst also. The Nigerians actually got into a political crisis between themselves. Awolowo and one other guy, I forget his name, I think it's Dia. So the problem is that actually catalyzed the Southern Cameroonians, the British Southern Cameroonians, to realize that with this kind of political risk, which actually is in Nigeria, they will go better if they can do their own thing. So they now started to fight to be able to get British South Cameroons under their own control, because they realized that hanging with the Nigerians is still going to be just hellfire for them. So now they started orientating themselves to be able to run their own affairs in their own region.
At the same time, we still had those parties in South Cameroon soil who were working to get the reunification with East Cameroon.
Exactly. That was now where F.R.A came into the scene, because F.R.A actually, with the NDP, had a lot of support. As I said again initially, the UPC actually sponsored the KNDP in Kumba. And when Angeli saw that as a disadvantage, he did everything to ban the UPC. He was the first premier, don't worry. That's when he was the premier. So he tried to ban the UPC. So the UPC actually had to leave or go underground in Southern Cameroon. But then Mansa came up with another party called One Cameroon, which was okay. So now this was like a UPC, a kind of British Cameroon UPC was called One Cameroon. It was actually the same thing, just that it was not legitimate in the soil of Southern Cameroon. Because UPC had no legitimacy to be a party in Southern Cameroon. But One Cameroon now was headed by two Mansa, being supported by the Umdobe and the Felix Mumi and all those other guys.
And could it have been that the UPC guys needed that refuge of that territory called Southern Cameroon
the thing is,
to launch their political attacks on La Republique?
Exactly. The thing is, Southern Cameroon is actually, as small as they were, and their chuckling in Nigeria had given them experience to be able to debate from different camps. While in East, the French Cameroon was still not used to that style. See, French Cameroon was a very brutal system. So that's why UPC actually got into trouble, because they were actually anticipating for nationalistic tendencies. The reunification thing was something else. It was first, they wanted kind of a reunification before independence. You see, so UPC actually had a problem with the French, because the French realized that these guys were actually educating the people, and educating the people is going to make them more conscious, more emancipated, and the colonial masters are going to have more problems. So it wasn't a bad thing what UPC was doing. UPC was, we can say, was a real wonderful party for the goodness of Cameroon. But now the French realized that they had to do away with it. So when they banned them, they had to go underground.
Okay, that's true.
Makiza War started.
That's true. I learned a lot about that Makiza War, because I have also family who are from the Western region, and my grandfather was a driver of the veterinary department, and had to travel from Bamenda to down the coast, as they used to say. Yeah, and they used to tell us stories about ambushes by the Makizas and all the like. Now, things were getting tougher in the French Cameroon, because there was no La Republique yet. La Republique became independent
Exactly.
France had its grip on them.
Yep.
In Southern Cameroon, we were free.
Yes, that's why I don't use the word La République. I use the word French Cameroon, because it was still a French mandate.
Yes.
Just like English Cameroon, British Cameroon was still a British mandate.
Yes. At that time, it was called British Southern Cameroon, exactly. British Cameroon. So that's why we're going to use the terminology of the times. Now, how did we move on? We're getting closer to 50. We're talking about the emancipation, as I put it, of the Southern Cameroonian after the experiences in Nigeria, where the small Southern Cameroonian found himself between dance.
Yeah.
Nigerians fighting each other.
No, but that came quite
later.
The real fight between the Southern Cameroon leaders came a little bit later.
No, I don't mean the Southern Cameroon leaders. I mean the Nigerian leaders.
Yes.
That led Southern Cameroon to realize that they had no backup. had to
exactly. They had what they call the Eastern Regional Crisis, which actually was spurred by the political machinations of Nigeria and made the Southern Cameroonians to realize that they will never really be able to do anything if they can't actually anticipate and fight for their own autonomy.
Okay.
So they needed their own autonomy. They could be with Nigeria, but they wanted to have their own autonomy within Nigeria. That was actually their fight.
This is very, very interesting. So how come that we never learn such history at school?
Well, that's a very good question as well. You don't
Whose interest? Who had interest in that? Not to teach us, neither us nor those people in French Cameroon.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, both ways it's been a manipulation. If you have to go and read, for example, the history of French Cameroonian, you'll be very surprised that it's even different from what we learned.
I know.
Side, you see, so both people have to be miseducated. It's a miseducation. Not only manipulation, it's miseducation.
Yeah, but we have had to rectify that this 1 year that has passed has been a year of enlightenment, a year of truth.
Thank
you
very
understand
much.
The epiphany. The epiphany of the Cameroon took place this year.
We still, Dr. Ngasa, we still have to find a proper name to give this so-called revolution that's going on. Some call it the coffin revolution, some call it the lawyer strike, some call it this and that, but we still have to give it a good name. As you use the right word, enlightenment. There was a time in Europe that they called the time of enlightenment. That philosophers would actually question the church.
Yes.
You see, we haven't had that period. And this 1 year, as you rightly said, has been not only a revolution, it has been a history teacher to us. We haven't even gone to the economics yet. We are still struggling to sort out the dates. And even a lot of the French Cameroonians, they're actually realizing that things happen without being taught.
Yes.
You see, today, for example, you will see, for example, the Isaac Chirumas and the Paul, we are talking about the founding fathers of Cameroon. To them, the founding fathers of Cameroon is only their own part. They don't talk about our own part. You see, and to them, the founding fathers of Cameroon are Ahidjo. Ahidjo is not the founding father of Cameroon. Ahidjo was just a pawn that the French put there to run their issues. The founding fathers of French Cameroon were the Yobes and the Felix Moumet and the Ernest Ouandis and Mahima Tips. While the English Cameroon, their own founding fathers were the names to talk about the Endele, the Ponchas, the Kali, or whatever. It doesn't matter what politics they were doing. They were the founding fathers, legitimate founding fathers. So if actually...
I want to, before, we have a lot of time to talk about that, our Amba history from the 53 onwards. But I want us to dwell on this issue of the age or the ages of our leaders at that time. When I was growing up, when I was in primary school in Bayele, Pa Foncha was at that time the vice president of Cameroon. He was in our parish. He was worshiping in our parish. And we used to look at him. He had all those stories like I saw John Foncha in his new country, whatever. I never witnessed it. We heard about it. Now, when you look at them retrospectively, they must have been very young in those days.
Yes, think about this. When, for example, I can't remember the age of Endele, but President Ahmadu Ahidjo himself was born in 1924, and when the Southern Cameroon was granted its own House of Assembly, Ahidjo was 30 years old.
30 years old?
Yes, that's when 30 years old when Southern Cameroon was granted its own House of Assembly. 6 years later, Ahidjo is becoming the first president of La République du Cameroon.
Wow.
You see,
that's something has to stick. You have, Pastor, just 1 second. Let our people look around the viewers. Just take a survey. How old are you? If you look at your clock, it will tell you your age. The time now will tell many people their ages. So you can imagine what you can do today.
Yeah.
You can imagine how difficult it is to manage your own household today at your age and means given. And then let's imagine those young boys in those days having to do such things that they had never in their lives. There had never been a free country in Africa before.
Yep. It was
France and the Britain or the Germans had always been the bosses.
Yep.
And these guys came up. Funcha were born.
Yep, that was around when the Germans were living.
Yeah, well, that's so. You imagine them growing up in a society and then becoming the leaders.
Yeah,
not having even experienced the German part of it.
You see, you had some matured people in all that concept. You like some like Estimuna was already he was born in 1912 by Silver. So by 1924, when Aijo has been born, Estimuna was 12 years old already. You see,
so that's why he could easily tell the younger boys to leave Ebola and we're going to Yaoundé.
More experience than other people. But nevertheless, as you said again, let's go back to the average age of the so-called founding fathers.
Yes.
These were people who had basic standard education. They didn't know actually how the world functioned. So when they actually became head of states or whatever you call them, well placed there by the colonialists knew exactly what they were doing. So don't forget now that Aijo becomes the president of Cameroon, and his peer in France is Charles de Gaulle, who has actually led the French during the Second World War. So that's his partner in France. So there was no match. There was just no match.
No.
I mean, today, with the world we live in, with all the internet, the information flow and everything, we are so much informed. But Dr. Ngasa, I want to ask you a question yourself. How much do you know how the world functions? Take us back 56 years and ask those guys those questions. They didn't even have books to read.
I can imagine.
The only books they read were the books that they wrote to write their first school exams.
Standard 1, Standard 2.
That's it. So now
I heard about it. When the goods were counted in terms of shillings. Shillings.
They were pushed. Yeah. They were pushed into the world of imperial politics.
This is really, really terrible.
Complex global manipulations and everything. So it doesn't matter how good these guys were; they were outplayed from the onset. We have to.
I will not even say outplayed. The guys were wicked. It's like a football match that the referee and the football league have already arranged. They know that the results are going to be like this.
Yes.
So, but they need a match.
Yes, it was a grand design. It was
yes. So they just need a time when that match took place.
You see, for example,
the results were known already.
Let me just quip in something. For example, now we are all excited about the CFA, for example. I want to ask a question. How many people who are even ministers in Cameroon today understand the mechanics of the CFA? It's a question to ask. You see, these are things that people take for granted. But these are the things that actually make a state a state. So from the point of view of the CFA and all the other things, we are not still a state. We're still just a plantation that was given the name of a state. Now, all of a sudden, our far-flung economists who have been ministers left and right, they are talking about the CFA has to go. It's now become a Pan-African thing or Pan-Francophone African thing that the CFA has to go. All of a sudden, because the money is being devaluated. We have to follow the historiography of the CFA from 1946 when it was introduced. And realize that in 1946, one CFA franc was equal to one French franc. Exactly. Today, where's the level? Who answers that question? You see, so these are grand designs. These are grand designs, which actually is very complex for the normal person. Yeah. And then to top it up again, we have a society where you cannot ask questions on these things. It's just today that with all the emancipation and the private televisions that we are actually now listening to debates about the CFA and such things that never happened when there was just one national television in the territory.
That's it.
Because it's not an interest to the imperialist that you get known. I mean, you know his machinations, how he does his things.
You know what is really can I put it? Should I say terrible or should I say embarrassing or whatever? I don't know the word. You choose it. Our Amba God had sent us around the world to go and learn, to go and see how things are being managed elsewhere. The day will come when we will be called back. Not physically to go home and do some things, but wherever you are, to do a particular job in order to complete the Amba puzzle. Now, we see what is happening back at home everywhere. These our crooks, stooges, or whoever they are, who thought that they had silenced us. They thought that killing our parents, or what? How can I put it? You know what happened after they broke our system. Our parents, our leaders who were in Boya, who were running southern West Cameroon context, were transferred to the francophone part of the country and isolated. I think this is something that we will have to talk about later, because it was the beginning of the genocide on the Anglophones. You isolate them and let them wither, just like flower, like a plant that receives only a drop of water in Garwa. After 2 weeks, it would dry out and die. And that's what they did to our parents. They were transferred from authority, given fictitious positions elsewhere in the Republic, but surrounded by francophones all around them with no means to communicate with their peers. And then after the age of 50, 59, 60, they were retired. That's what happened to our parents.
Exactly.
And then all those so-called privileges which they had were suddenly taken away from them. They had to return to the province.
Yeah, under the auspices of the economic crisis.
What auspices? It was a planned thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
They took them home and didn't give them the money. Then they went to start applying. What can I say? You legitimize. You have to go and explain to government that you are the same person who had been running this a certain office for the last 30 years for the government. Now you've gone on retirement and you have to come and prove to the government that you were somebody who now deserves a pension. Or how can I put it? A lot of our parents died. Frustration on the way to Yaoundé. That was a part of the genocide. That's something that people have not yet put into context.
Exactly.
They killed so many of our people. They wiped off all our leadership because they believed that when that generation, that new West Cameroon, would have died out, when that generation would have died out, then the small boys who came after would have no orientation, would have would not know what to say, what to do, and then they would have won. That's why they went on to stage 2 to start introducing their judges and in our courts, thinking that no lawyer would notice that. That's why they send their teachers to our schools to teach French, French to teach English children, thinking that nobody will be there enough again who could remember the good old days. But we'll still come to that. We still have about, let me say, just 10 minutes to go. I don't want us to come and start talking about things of today, but I just want us to know that the things that are happening today, they had their roots way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way behind. So, Pascal, please take us back to the late 50s. And we are now beginning 50s. Yeah? If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
Yeah, you see,
50.
As we talked about the UPC thing, actually, which was relocated to Kumba and was banned by Ndeli through pressures from England, no doubt, but the English had actually been informed by the French to put the pressure on Ndeli to ban the UPC, because the UPC now had been tagged as a communist group that was trying to actually bring communism into the system.
Geopolitics, Cold War.
Exactly.
So that anybody who is stuck a communist is an enemy automatically of the British and the West.
And the question we have to ask ourselves, that we grew up actually hearing the word communism or socialism. We grew up hearing that word because it was sold to us very negatively. But the damn problem is the underpinnings of socialism was actually to fight for the rights of the working class. So we in our society never really had that consciousness of the rights of the working class, because we were actually slaves in a European revolution. See, slavery never really got finished.
It's never.
Yes, because slavery doesn't mean that you have to take a hoe or a cutlass and go to the field and cut down sugarcane. No. Slavery just means that you are actually working on the design of somebody who actually makes extra value from what you actually do. So the slavery continued after the Second World War in its own form as colonialism, and then later on through our so-called bogus independence, it took another form again. So now when Uyobe actually now went on the ground in Kumba, he had no chance but to hide within the bushes of Mbanga and Lum and all those places, which was not too far from their stronghold. Mbanga and Lum were very, very important for the UPC, which they termed the Maquisards. And you can actually testify. We grew up also having a negative connotation about the word Maquisard. Meanwhile, in France,
yes.
Maquisards were the French fighting against the Nazis. These were very good guys in France, while in our place, they were bad guys. So
that's true.
Somewhere also, again, that's when Cameroon history started getting very dirty, both sides, because there was a lot of pressure, the pressure for independence. So people realized that now they had to be actually choosing which parties they're going to belong to. So all that now made old friends or partners to become enemies, because everybody now was trying to go to their own group and to entice people to vote for his group that was going to bring them liberation. I mean, that rings a bell.
This is really, really interesting. We will surely come to it. The French, that contract, that accord, that France forced all of these colonies in Cameroon to sign before they got their independence. We'll still come to that. But today, I don't know what to say to my people. We wanted to have another colleague here to give us another input, but the lines with America are not really the best. I can understand. I don't know where they are, but we have to do a GoFundMe for the American lines so that we can now be getting Americans to join us too. Otherwise, we will have to stay up very late in the night so that we can get them at the hours when their network is better. All the same, I think that for the next time, I would also love to have from our public, from our listeners, from our viewers, inputs. You can comment on our Facebook page, which is as you see, I see some commentaries there. But I think that the history of Amberland is so complicated. It's so complicated that we cannot just be sitting here, the two of us, and be claiming that we're touching up to 50% of it. We need more experts. We need more historians, and especially we need those who lived in Ambazonia, those who lived there, who can tell us how it was. How was it like to be a clerk in the post office in Ambaland? How was it like to be a teacher in a government school in Ambaland, or to work in a dispensary in a hospital? Who was a sanitary officer in our West Cameroonian life? Those are questions which we have to answer in our program, Amba History. And I think that we would welcome any contributions. As I myself, are we historians?
Well, actually, we call ourselves amateur historians because we actually went back to our books because we were interested. We realized that we have passed through all the good institutes of education, but we still don't have any background, which is very sad. That we have all the masters and PhDs, but we don't know the basics. So if you look at it very well, we are very much illiterate in our own issues, but very literate in other people's issues. So it's some kind of self-criticism.
This is very, very important. It's very, very important because a lot of our brothers and sisters are also doing such work on Facebook, and we want to hail them. We want to praise them that they should keep on this good work because we cannot be doing it once a week on Amba History and on SCBC. We welcome all those who have been putting in all the efforts, no matter from which directions. We welcome those who are also documenting. So what is happening, what we're pleading for is that you people should be keeping archives. You should be keeping all the documentation because they burned down that kangaroo white glass house in Yaoundé the other day to hide. They certainly wanted to hide certain things. It doesn't concern us. If they think that it would concern us, is their problem. We have our own history which we have to write down and archive. But we should be very, very careful with whatever comes from there, because they would now, having burned down their glass house, they come and claim that there were documents that prove that we were together. But unfortunately, those documents had been taken by the fire ghost, the ghost fire. And the ghost fireworks doesn't come. No, Amba land, we have ghost towns on Mondays. So we don't have you ever heard of a fire on a Monday? Not just a question. The ghost fires, they go on rampage in the La Republique and solve problems because they are decreed by the president that they should go on. There are commissions, ghost fire commissions, which work. And those are things that we have to put in our documentation that in our neighboring country, at the time when we were fighting for our restoration, there were ghosts which had crossed the Mungo, which had tried to come to our part to destabilize us again, but they found that we were stable. Amba land has a spirit that nothing, no matter your guns, Honorable Viva said it, Honorable Viva, no matter how many of the French soldiers you were at to all those that we already have, you have in Amba land, they can never break us. They can never. And I tell you, my brother Pascal, there are many of us watching. I'm very happy. I've seen all the names here. I think I just keep the names to myself. Everybody who wants to can see. My guy, I see. And I will encourage that those who have anything to contribute to SCBC, which you think you want to share with your brothers, please come up. We're very welcome to have you on SCBC. Come up with your programs. If it's an entertainment, we have Ambatena. If it's whatever, you're welcome. And Pascal, just before we call it off for today, what would you like our listeners, our viewers to take as a takeaway message?
Okay, the takeaway message, we have to make it like this. You see, when we started in 1922, we fast forwarded to 1939, and then we started sampling around 1940 something. We have to be very careful. After the Second World War till 1961 is the most important time of our history, which we have to deal with properly, because that's where everything really went wrong. That's where it is. So a lot of important dates, a lot of politicking, a lot of intrigues happened, and they're very confusing. And that's why a lot of our people don't really know the history, because they don't know which name was associated with which political party or political actor, and why did they break up, or why did they make coalitions, or this and that. You see, people just get to know the word 1960, 1961, but they don't know actually the decade before that, 1960 and 61, was the most treacherous decade of Cameroon history. Both sides. Okay. The most treacherous time. So that period has to be noted like a time where we have to expand it properly so that people can get a kind of pristine education of those dates, so that they can now follow up the current events without fraud. So,
Pascal, thank you very much.
Thank
you for all this input, for all the research that you've done, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting next week. We are always every day we're working on one. Today's Amba history. In a few minutes we'll be working on another project. All we're trying to do is that we want to encourage our people to know that they are a people, and the people has its own history, even if it had not been told. The story is still there, and we want to tell our stories because we don't want others to tell them for us.
Exactly.
That's Amba history. Thank you very much, and we say bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.